Chairman Raskin, Ranking Member Mace, and distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you for inviting me to testify. I will focus today on the evolution of the extremist paramilitary organizations and the ongoing threat they pose to democracy. Evaluating this threat requires not only understanding these groups' use of paramilitary training and promotion of insurrectionist ideology, but also understanding and responding to the strategies and developing alliances through which they seek to enter mainstream American politics. Since January 6th, this has been a decentralized strategy focused on local politics. Social media platform Gab outlined it this spring. Quote, capture your local county, then several of them, then maybe your state. We need to take the concepts and values of nationalism and decentralize them to our backyards. Consistent with this strategy, paramilitary organizations have rebranded and reorganized since January 6th. The Three Percenters Original and the Proud Boys both dissolved their national organizations in favor of state and local chapters. Local groups like them tout their civic engagement, claim to have working relationships with local government and law enforcement, and advertise their tax-exempt nonprofit status. This rebranding helps legitimize their political activity. For example, in 2021, they packed school board meetings in opposition to mask and vaccine mandates and to teaching about race and diversity. In 2022, they have shown up heavily armed and intimidating at events promoting white supremacy, LGBTQ-friendly programs, and at demonstrations in opposition to the overruling of Roe v. Wade. Paramilitary actors, including some who participated in the January 6th attack, have successfully run for office in multiple states. They've taken over local GOP executive committees where they aggressively pushed the party from its establishment roots toward the fringe. And they've sought recall elections of moderate Republicans in favor of election deniers and extremists. Elected federal and state officials have used private militias as quote-unquote security. They've appeared at events with militia members and have even echoed their insurrectionist propaganda. Some have downplayed or denied the violence on January 6th, emboldening extremists. After receiving death threats to themselves and their families, 4 of the 10 Republican House members who voted to impeach Donald Trump in 2021 opted against running for re-election. Paramilitary groups have also recruited and sought favor from law enforcement. The ADL's recent analysis of the leaked membership list for the Oath Keepers identified 373 persons then serving in law enforcement across the country and approximately 1,100 who had previously served. Paramilitary groups have also aligned with so-called constitutional sheriffs. Elected sheriffs who believe that they answer only to the U.S. Constitution are free to refuse to enforce any law with which they disagree and espouse election denialism. Some have advocated deputizing local militias. The combination of false election fraud claims and sheriffs with expansive views of their authority and willingness to deputize militia members is an obvious threat to democratic processes. So what must be done? Too little law enforcement action has been taken against paramilitary activity across the country. Private militias are not authorized under federal or state law, are not protected by the Second Amendment, and are unlawful in every state. Insurrection is not allowed by the U.S. Constitution and is a felony under federal law. Yet local law enforcement agencies lack resources and sometimes the political will to use the legal tools available in their states. Congress should consider a federal anti-paramilitary law that includes a civil law enforcement mechanism for seeking injunctive relief and civil forfeiture against armed paramilitary actors and their organizations. Federal funding for state and local enforcement of existing state laws would also help. Law enforcement must eradicate extremists from their ranks. Although police have First Amendment rights, those rights are not limitless. Even when speaking in their personal capacities on matters of public concern, law enforcement officials may be fired or disciplined when their speech or association interferes with the mission of the agency. Congress should consider conditioning federal law enforcement grant funding on proactive efforts to eradicate extremists from the force. State and local officials also must step in when law enforcement, whether part of the constitutional sheriff's movement or not, overreach their authority. Election administration is the job of election officials, not law enforcement officers. Thank you for the opportunity to address the subcommittee.